Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is to get you well informed quickly and thoroughly. Today, we're plunging into the pretty high stakes world of cybersecurity. We're zeroing in specifically on XDR, that's extended detection and response, and we're looking at the absolutely critical role an XDR analyst plays in, keeping our digital lives secure. Now, for this deep dive, we've got a really unique source, actually. It's a set of practice questions and their detailed explanations for the XDR analyst exam. Think of it as like a master key to the most crucial parts of keeping digital systems safe. It's almost like we've got the secret playbook, revealing exactly what cyber defenders are trained to do and the core challenges they face every day.
Exactly. And what's truly compelling here, I think, is how these exam questions manage to distill incredibly complex operational knowledge down into fundamental concepts. These aren't just trivia points. They are really the bedrock for any security professional, or even just someone curious who wants to understand modern cyber defense. So our mission today is to go beyond just the answers. We want to uncover not just what XDR does, but why these functions are so profoundly crucial in the real fight against cyber threats. It's really about understanding the core strategies protecting our digital infrastructure.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's kick off our deep dive with something I think anyone who's even glanced at security logs will recognize. Alert fatigue. If you've ever been near a security operations center, a SOC, you know that overwhelming deluge of individual alerts. They're often disconnected, right? And they can just swamp even the most dedicated security teams. It's like standing under a fire hose of warnings, making it almost impossible to spot the real coordinated attacks and all that noise. So how does XDR help with that? Well, our guide to XDR, it reveals a pretty brilliant solution from Cortex XDR for this exact problem. It's called data stitching. This feature automatically takes multiple, seemingly separate alerts. Maybe one pops up on an endpoint, another from a network sensor, maybe a third from the cloud. And it intelligently knits them together into a single comprehensive incident. So instead of like 100 tiny warnings, you get one clear aggregated picture. This is where it gets really interesting for an analyst, I think.
Right. The genius here is that data stitching transforms what might look like harmless, isolated little blips into a clear signal of potentially a coordinated multi-stage attack. Without it, you wouldn't just be managing fatigue. You'd risk missing the forest for the trees. Failing to see a sophisticated attack because its pieces are too fragmented. It lets analysts shift from, drowning in warnings to focusing their precious time and attention where it really matters, on significant actionable threats. It's about making every minute count.
That sounds like a huge leap in efficiency. Okay, so once data stitching consolidates things into an incident, the next challenge is understanding the full story, right? An analyst needs to piece together the whole narrative. How did this thing start? What happened next? Our practice material points to another critical Cortex XDR feature for this exact purpose: the causality chain. And this is more than just a simple list of events. It provides a full chronological narrative of what happened. Imagine it like a detailed storyboard for the incident. It reveals the complete chain of causation for an attack right from that initial compromise all the way through subsequent activities. Things like lateral movement, maybe privilege escalation, or data exfiltration. You can literally visualize every step the attacker took, every piece of malware executed. It gives you the entire sequence.
And this raises a really important question, doesn't it? Without such a detailed chronological view, how effectively could organizations really learn from an attack, or prevent it from happening again, or even just accurately assess the full damage? The causality chain is absolutely vital, not just for understanding the root cause, but for creating this undeniable forensic record. It turns that jumble of data points into a coherent, actionable story that informs both the immediate response and, crucially, long-term security improvements. It's like the detective's perfect timeline.
Right, exactly. So once you've understood how the attack unfolded with the causality chain, the next step for an analyst is often active hunting, isn't it? Looking for similar threats or digging even deeper into the details. So how do they actually go about querying these massive data sets? Asking the system specific questions, pulling out the exact info they need? Our sources introduce the powerful language for this, XQL, the XDR query language. XQL's main use, as highlighted in the source, is querying both historical and real-time security log data. And we're talking about information flowing in from everywhere: endpoints, the network, cloud environments, the works. It's basically the analyst's direct voice, their way to interact with and pull intelligence from that huge ocean of security data.
Yeah, and the broader implication here is pretty significant. XQL transforms raw data into actionable intelligence. It moves analysts beyond just, reacting to alerts. It lets them proactively discover threats. It's absolutely critical for threat hunting, because it empowers investigators to identify patterns, spot anomalies, uncover those potential indicators of compromise, things that might otherwise just stay hidden in those massive data sets. It's like having a universal translator for all your security logs.
That's incredibly powerful. Let's make it practical for a sec. Imagine an analyst needs to filter network event data, but they need to filter it based on a dynamic list of known malicious IP addresses, maybe from a real-time threat intel feed. How would they do that efficiently using XQL? Is there a specific command? Yes, our source material points to a specific XQL command, the lookup command. This command is specifically designed for filtering event data by cross-referencing it with external lists, like those known malicious IPs. It's a direct, pretty elegant way to compare your internal network activity against that external threat intelligence, without having to manually sift through mountains of logs.
And this really demonstrates how SQL efficiently integrates external intelligence to enrich the internal data you already have. It makes investigations much faster, much more accurate. I mean, think about the alternative, manually checking every single connection against a constantly changing list of bad IPs. Forget it. The lookup command automates that whole process. It allows for rapid identification of network traffic hitting those critical threat intel feeds. It's almost like giving the system a cheat sheet to check against.
Okay, that really clarifies how XQL bridges that gap between raw data and actual intelligence, especially with external feeds. But what if you have truly vast amounts of data, and you don't just need to filter, you need to summarize it somehow, find trends, or just count occurrences? You're not looking for individual needles anymore, but maybe the size of the haystack or the types of needles in it, right? For that specific task, our sources introduce another indispensable XQL command, the stats command. Its primary purpose is aggregating data, so you could use it to count, say, how many times a certain type of event happened in the last hour, or summarize traffic from one specific user, or calculate the average number of login failures across a whole department. It's really about getting that high-level overview or spotting patterns in bulk data.
Right. What this points to is that stats is just an indispensable tool for data reduction and pattern recognition, which is essential for making any sense of the sheer scale of modern security logs. We're talking huge amounts of data. It helps analysts efficiently identify trends, anomalies, or even just common behaviors that could indicate a threat, all within those incredibly large data sets. It transforms that flood of raw data into digestible, actionable summaries.
Okay, so with all these complex queries, these intricate investigations, it seems like analysts would be constantly building and refining these powerful SQL commands. Do they really have to recreate them from scratch every single time they need to run a similar search? That sounds like a massive time sink.
Thankfully, no. Our guide highlights a feature called the Query Library in Cortex XDR, and this feature is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It allows analysts to save and reuse those frequently run SQL queries. It effectively becomes a personal or maybe a team repository for all their go-to searches and investigative workflows. And this brings up an important point about operational best practices. Tools like the Query Library are absolutely key to standardizing analysis and accelerating it too. It directly improves efficiency by enabling quick access to common searches during active investigations or even just routine threat hunts. It prevents analysts from constantly reinventing the wheel, which means less time coding queries, more time actually analyzing the results. That's huge.
Definitely. Now let's pivot a bit. From analysis to the crucial stage of incident response once a threat is confirmed. So imagine a threat is identified on a specific device, maybe someone's laptop, or a critical server. What's one of the very first, most critical steps an analyst needs to take, rapidly, to contain it? Our SORC material makes it crystal clear the paramount importance of isolating an endpoint. This means literally disconnecting that affected device from the network, pulling the plug, essentially. It's a swift, decisive action taken to prevent any further damage.
And what's truly compelling here is the immediate, tangible impact of doing that. By disconnecting the affected device, you're stopping the threat, whether it's malware trying to spread or an active attacker trying to move laterally. You stop it from spreading across your network, period. This single step can prevent a localized issue from blowing up into a network-wide catastrophe. It limits the potential damage significantly. It's the digital equivalent of quarantining a patient to stop an epidemic, really.
That makes sense. Containment first. A crucial first line of defense. But let's scale up the scenario. What about a high-severity incident? We're talking a major breach, maybe involving sensitive data, or a critical system compromise. In that kind of really critical situation, what should an analyst's absolute first priority be? The answer from our source material is unequivocal: collecting forensic data from the affected systems. This isn't about fixing it yet. It's about making absolutely sure you capture all the evidence before it vanishes.
Yes, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is fundamentally about securing the evidence trail, which is essential for understanding, mitigating, and potentially prosecuting any serious security breach. This immediate action ensures that critical information is preserved, safe for the investigation and remediation before it can be altered or overwritten or just lost. And that happens surprisingly quickly in a dynamic IT environment. Imagine a crime scene, you wouldn't start cleaning it up before collecting all the clues, would you? It's exactly the same principle here.
Right. Preserve the evidence. Okay, shifting gears slightly again. Let's talk about the ongoing management of these security systems, because nobody wants their security tools to inadvertently block legitimate business operations, do they? Or, maybe even worse, create constant false alarms that just lead back to that alert fatigue we talked about. That just causes frustration, and often people just start ignoring alerts entirely. Not good. So how do analysts proactively reduce those pesky false positives without actually weakening their defenses? Well, our source points to configuring an alert exclusion. This action basically allows the XDR agent to ignore certain legitimate tools or applications that you know are safe, things that are part of your normal operations. So, for example, if your IT team uses a specific harmless network scanner or maybe a custom internal application, you can tell XDR not to flag it as a threat, even if its behavior might, on the surface, look a little suspicious sometimes.
And this raises that important question about the constant balancing act, doesn't it, between robust security vigilance and maintaining operational continuity and the user experience, too. Configuring these alert exclusions ensures that routine IT ops aren't constantly flagged as threats, which is crucial for minimizing disruption while still keeping effective security monitoring going for actual threats. It's about smart tuning, really, making the security system work with the business, not against it.
Okay, makes sense. Now, here's a crucial operational question for anyone relying on these XDR agents on their endpoints. What happens if a Cortex XDR agent on, say, a laptop goes offline? Maybe the user turns it off or loses internet. Is all protection immediately lost the second it disconnects? Does that machine become completely vulnerable to everything? Our source clarifies the nuance here, and it's an important distinction to make. While an offline agent cannot download the latest threat content update, so it won't get the very newest intelligence on brand new emerging threats, its existing protection and local detection rules continue to operate until it reconnects. So it's not like a total blackout of protection.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how these systems are actually designed for a degree of resilience, even when they're disconnected. This distinction is vital. It highlights the importance of having a robust baseline of security that's always active, regardless of connectivity. You're not completely exposed the moment you go offline, but crucially, you are running on older intelligence, which really emphasizes the critical need for those agents to reconnect and update as soon as possible. It's kind of like your car's navigation's still working if you lose internet, but it can't tell you about new traffic jams that just popped up.
And this raises, I think, an important question for the future. As threats continuously evolve, getting faster, more complex, demanding ever more sophisticated responses, how will we continue to refine these tools and strategies? How do we not just react, but actually stay ahead? What new stitches or chains will emerge next as the landscape of cyber defense keeps transforming? It's constantly changing.
That's definitely food for thought and a vital area to keep watching. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of XDR. We hope you feel more informed, maybe more confident, and perhaps even a little inspired to keep exploring the incredible technologies protecting our digital world. Until next time, keep learning.